you are the first politician we have here. And I don't even know if I can call a politician. General. Actually, would you have preferred to be more in the army or the politician that you are today?
That's called me Bantu. The rest will fall into
No, I'm asking if you would like today, what would you prefer to be, like in the army or politics?
Both. It will depend on your question.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
So, some of you kids out there, there are many things that you don't know about the general. So we'll be talking a few things, and maybe some of you are like, but why is everyone calling him the general? Mm-hmm. So in 1987, when you were 32 years old, mm-hmm. you took over a country that was at the time known, that does not exist today, mm-hmm. a country that was known as the Transkei. Mm-hmm. And Transkei as a little kid in Clash. And you overthrew the then president, Matanzima. No. Chief George Matanzima. And then you installed Stella Sgcau.
Yes.
As president. Prime Minister. Mm-hmm. And then soon after that, was it 2 months later, and then you ran the country. So what made you say, I'm not happy with this? Zombie.
Well, the circumstances which led to us getting involved in so-called politics of the time in Transkei was as a result of the commissions of inquiries which were conducted, but findings were pointing fingers to the then Prime Minister, Chief George Matanzima. And I remember on a certain evening, we were at the officers' mess with the officers of the then Transkei Defense Force. General Matanzima, General Mgwebi, they were still colonels at that stage. So we're just analyzing and talking about this. And we could see that the anxiety which was prevailing at the time was also engulfing every sector, including the soldiers. But the question was, and so what? He's powerful, nobody will touch him. So we left, and then they came a week after that, came to my house in my office, and I was the commander of the then Transkei Defense Force at that stage. And then they said, man, we feel that we need to remove this fellow from power.
So they came to you?
Yes. There were about 3 of them. Colonel Duli, General Mgwebi, and General Matanzima. I said, what?
How was General Matanzima related? Or was he related?
He's related.
How?
It's like Tatum Ngqi.
Oh my God.
Yes.
So
he was related to Chief George Matanzima.
Hear me out for a moment. I absolutely love being associated with great South African businesses. And one of those is Naked Insurance. For one thing, Naked Insurance makes it so easy for you to understand insurance that you can sign up on your own online in 90 seconds, minus all that complicated mumbo jumbo that one has to deal with when trying to get insurance. To find out more for yourself, please click on the link on the descriptor. You won't regret it. And one more thing, please click on the link so that they can see that you actually click on the link from this channel. And trust me, you'll be helping this channel grow a whole lot.
And then I said, no, guys, no. I stopped them and I succeeded. But I said, no, let us go and meet him first in his house and just say to him, engage him and advise him, perhaps why don't he manage his transition properly, because the evidence emanating from the commission was damning against him. So they agreed. So we drove to Butterworth to meet him. He was in Butterworth, in his house in Butterworth. Yes, bantwana bam, kunjani? How are you, young boys, and so on. No, and then also everything was friendly. So, and then I had to break to state why we were there. And we said to him, Chief, we come here in our capacity as your sons. We want to give you an exclusive intelligence, which we are getting it from the public after the revelations in the commissions of inquiry. When the commission say Mr. Magidigid and another Transkeian siphoned millions of rands on tractor transition with East Austrian government. So why would you not manage your exit and make sure that you live peacefully and wait for your fate outside? But you allow your party, Transkei Independence Political Party, to nominate a new leader. And I'm so grateful to you guys, boys. It's a genuine advice, and I think I don't have to say I'm going to consider. I will do it. Thank you for advising me. And then we got coffee, and then we attained there. But he said, on Monday I will have to go and meet Pik Botha, and informed him.
Oh, the foreign minister
of South Africa.
Yes.
And go and thank him for having helped assisted the government of Transkei for all these years. So we said, well, that's your area. We know nothing. We don't even know where his offices are. Jokingly, we put it like that. So we left. And then we heard that he had gone to South Africa indeed, because we were monitoring the movements. A week passed. He's not coming back. And then the three officers once more came to my office. This time they were a little bit concerned. When I look at them, at their faces, they seemed to be something brewing, and they were panicking. They said, Chief George has not returned. Has he replied to you or returned? Do you know his whereabouts? I said, no. And then we took a decision that morning. Because when you want to take an action, you don't canvass it. Especially of overthrowing a government. We took a decision and said, okay, let us have all the list of all those people who were implicated in the commission, especially those in the cabinet. We'll leave those who are in the government departments, but let's deal with the political heads. And then we prepared letters of resignation for them, including Chief George Matanzima. And the 8th hour was 6 o'clock, when in the evening, when would those letters be served? And we also alerted.
So were the letters given to people to hand over to them?
Yes, hand over to them. They must sign, then get a copy back that they are resigning. So if they want to retain a copy, it's fine, but we want the original copy back. So that operation was sprung at about 6 p.m. on that particular day.
And people drove to the houses?
Yeah, the soldiers now.
Specific, you knew, so you had specific soldiers?
Yes, the operation
people you trusted,
was planned.
Yes, okay.
That, 2 are going to have roadblocks. And these roadblocks, you don't mention what are you going to do. Just say, soldiers must go into the roadblocks, and then there are certain soldiers who are assigned, especially those in the military intelligence, who are going to serve letters to
the ministers.
And 9 out of 10 times you send people who are familiar in the faces of many ministers.
Okay.
So that you minimize shock.
Okay.
So friendly soldiers, they're trained for that and so on, public relations. And then around 7:30, Pik Botha phoned.
Quick one. This production would not have been possible without the good help of our friends over at Phil SA. They have given us some of the equipment that we use to shoot this podcast and some of these episodes. In fact, all of the episodes that we've shot so far. Please go and check out some of the good news stories they have on philsa.co.za, and also check out the YouTube channel and subscribe to them as well. Click the link in the description to find out more.
General, we understand that there is a coup there. There's a military takeover. Yes? What's the problem?
So they phoned you?
They phoned me.
So you were there?
At home.
Okay, were you there? You were the head of the military in Transkei?
No, I was still the head of the Transkei Defense Force.
That's what I mean. Yes, okay.
At the time.
Okay.
So he says, we understand that the soldiers are taking over, or have taken over Transkei.
And I'm assuming, obviously, one of the political heads called.
Yes. So his Minister of Pik Botha was Minister of Foreign Affairs. Obviously, he was sent by Pik Botha at the time. So he was more concerned about the fate of South Africans who live in Transkei and so on. And then I said to him, no, we are just finalizing the operation which we had agreed with Chief George Matanzima. We understand you met him on Tuesday. Today is Friday or so. So what did he say to you? Didn't he tell you that he is resigning? Yes, he said so. But why? Where is he now?
So is he asking you? Or
I'm asking Pik Botha. Where is Chief George Matanzima? So perhaps the reason why something which is missing is, why did those soldiers who came to my office, those 3 officers, panicking, they said, if Chief George is not coming back or is not resigning as he promised, what if he has gone to Pretoria to ask the South African government to intervene? And then we might end up in jail ourselves. That's why we sprung that exercise on that same day when they came to my office. So that's history. Fast forward, a new leader was elected. Chief George, of course, finally resigned, and then he came back, and then he faced charges in court. He was sentenced to 9 years and he in prison, and then he served 3.5 years and was given parole. So the military, when the courts were independent at that stage, even during the second phase, we never interfered in the judiciary. We said, your fate will be decided by the courts, not us. Our military courts deal with soldiers only, not civilians. So that the Transkeians became relaxed a little bit when we announced that Chief George is going to appear in court. The prosecuting authority has found that out of the investigation, there is a prima facie case. He has got a case to answer. Fast forward, the Transkei Independence Political Party elected a new leader in the name of Miss Stella Sgcau. Then I'm still the commander of Transkei Defense Force. We didn't interfere there in that process. We were just removing those ones who were seriously
implicated, very heavily.
Then she started very well, promising and address people.
This podcast is hosted at the stylish Rockefeller Hotel and Apartments in Cape Town. Whether you're a business traveler or a vacationer, this stunning property has everything you need for an unforgettable stay. Enjoy breathtaking views of the mother city. Dine at the top-notch restaurant. Stay fit at the well-equipped gym. Relax at the top floor indoor swimming pool. And beat load shedding. The Rockefeller has it all. Make it your go-to destination on your next visit to the mother city.
On the 86th day, if I'm not mistaken, the officers of Transkei Defence Force from the intelligence brought in fact, three the same guys, and General Matanzima, Mgwebi, and Duli. They brought documents like this size. I said, what is it now, guys? Hey, General, there's a serious matter here. What is it now? Which involves the Prime Minister. Again.
A new Prime Minister.
New Prime Minister. I said, again. They said, all right, read this. And then I read it. They explained it. Sol Kesner bribed Chief George Matanzima and the entire cabinet when Chief George was still the Prime Minister, and each cabinet minister was given 50,000 rands each in exchange for the exclusive gambling rights in Transkei. And then we said no. Then we discussed the matter, and they said, we are going to be regarded as spoilers if again we ask Stella to resign. So this is going to create more instability. People are going to say we're not okay upstairs. And then again, the same day, we said, okay, let's have a plan now, and say on the 30th of December, everybody's on holiday. Stella is already on holiday. Then after that, we evaluated the documentation, and then we've noticed that the 2 million was deposited by Sun International in the account of Mr. Gqozo in Elliot, and then Mr. Gqozo signed checks, depositing those checks to the accounts of all the ministers.
Oh, so he was like the middleman.
Yes, Mr. Gqozo.
Okay.
And then we said, okay, guys, what should we do now? And I said, no, these guys must go, all of them, because it looks like this basket is full of rotten apples. Let's get in, and then I asked them, but who's going to be in charge, guys? and I said, well, automatically the commander will have to. So we decided then that, all right, come the 30th of December, because it was around 24th, 23rd, 24th. We said, no, let's have a function of all the soldiers. We normally have those end of the year functions. And then we went out on the 31st in the morning. We had already had a plan. And we made more copies of these checks. And I said, all right.
Oh, copies. I thought it was resignation letters.
No.
Okay,
checks, yes. So we called, I started to address soldiers, the troops, sergeant, I call them warrant officers and so on, or non-commissioned officers, and then officers. Then gave each person a copy of that bundle. And then I went through to them. And all of them, as I was moving one to another area, they said, we should have taken over the government from the beginning. We can't keep on risking our lives. So I I was happy because at least it went through according to our plan. Then the plan was that on the same day, because we were there 8:30, and we said 12 o'clock, the soldiers must be conduct roadblocks. As you enter Kai Bridge,
from South Africa,
the base which was in Butterworth was tasked to conduct a roadblock. If you come through from Durban, the military base which was in Maluti, they cover that side. And then Umtata and those who are from Port St. John's, the special forces, will also do their work. At 12 o'clock is the H hour to announce that we are taking over. Everything went on
12 o'clock
in the PM, yes, midday. Hey, then there comes a time. Who is going to announce this coup? Yes, it's you, sir. Salute the general, who is you? And then I said, no ways. I can't go back to the cells again. I was detained, not again.
You were detained when?
1987, January. I said, no, I'm not. Let me finish. I'm not going there again. Go and fetch a radio announcer there. Come with a tape and say to him or her, we are going to announce the program of security around the coast for tourists to make sure that they are safe. So the Pio Magoda was the SAPC. He's with SAPC now. Was with Radio Transkei. 12 o'clock. So he came around 11. Then in front of the officers. And then said, let's record this message of taking over. He put the mic himself, thinking that I'm going to talk about the holiday, how are we going to deploy troops during December holidays. The next thing he heard was, I, Bantubonke Holomisa, blah, 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 blah. I'm here to announce that
do you know that
now I'm taking over.
You know, I couldn't speak English then. I was young. And I remember this thing kept playing on the radio over and over again. And that's the one thing I always remember. Bantubonke Holomisa. Who is this Bantubonke Holomisa? He's saying, and that's all I could understand, but nothing else.
Now, Pio Magoda was escorted. But as he was recording, I could see that he was sweating. And we said, okay, Mr. Major Makhubalo, you take him straight to the Nerve Center at Live Studios.
Oh, so the army will escort him?
Yes, Major Makhubalo will escort him straight 12 midday. We will be listening. And then indeed at 12 o'clock, the bell said, titi, 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 and then they played the tape. And before he left, we said, can you play it to make sure that it is recorded correctly? And then it was superb. Then Colonel Dooley was tasked that at 12 o'clock, you must be in front of the South African ambassador, because we view that the main threat of what we are doing
is South Africa.
It would be South Africa. So you give him this file and say, here is a 2 million by Sol Kesner, a South African business person who has bribed the entire cabinet of Transkei. So at 12 o'clock, not before that, 12 o'clock, roadblocks were ready. By 1 o'clock, the exercise was okay. And then the guys came back and said the operation was a success. And then I remember late Brigadier Malgas came and saluted and says, mission accomplished. Sirs, can I now be excused to go and join my family for the new year? So we're looking at each other now in the operations room. And then I asked, hey guys, how is a government run by all of us? we were not sure where are we going to start.
Yeah. And also, you're only 32.
Yes, remember that when we were making that announcement, we were saying we are declaring a martial law. Okay, that's fine. Then the legal advisor in the morning came to say, yes, he has consulted, he has been in the chambers with the Chief Justice. And all of them are panicking because they don't know, they've never implemented a martial law. I said, scratched my head. I said, what's next now? But I had to think on my toes. I said, no, man, let us issue a press statement after consulting other leaders, General Matanzima and other generals. I said, look, let's issue a statement. Not to say the judges cannot implement or apply this martial law because they have never. We mustn't say that. But we must tell the people, one, because the coup was a success, it was bloodless. We are now immediately lifting the martial law. The law which was here will continue.
Ah.
And then, then we were in good books to everybody. But how is a government is formed and how a military government operates? We still look at each other, scratched our heads and so on. Until Reverend Moshoeshoe, he was from Matatiele, he was our padre, pastor of the military, whatever. We said to him, aren't you having a relationship with Lesotho? Because at that stage, it was a military government in Lesotho. So he made arrangements immediately. And then around 3 in the afternoon of the second day, he says, okay, the clearance has been given. So Zem Titus was a state law advisor and another group took a helicopter and they flew straight to Lesotho. But we said, please don't fly over South African land. Go to Matatiele next to Precious Neck where you are going to not cross border of South Africa. Just fly over. They came back with all the decrees, how a new law is introduced and so on, how the cabinet. The media was on our case. And we said, no, we will come back on the 6th of January with more details. For now, please.
Which media? The
entire
media or
South
Africa
Africa,
media?
Everything.
Okay.
Remember that the word coup was never experienced in Southern Africa. It was in South Africa. It was in Lesotho. And before that, it was Uganda under Idi Amin and so on. So it was not fashionable. So we succeeded on that score, and then on the 6th of January, then we announced the plans, how are we going to operate, and so on and so on. So that phase went out very well, smoothly. And then 88, that was now on the 6th of January 1988. Mid-January 1988 was February. Then we sent, I sent the officers of the then Transkei Defense Force to Wavecrest.
Where's Wavecrest?
Wavecrest is along the coast in Kendane.
Okay.
And then I said to them, go
Transkei.
In Transkei. Yeah. So I said to them, go and discuss one item. What kind of politics are we going to speak? Because our predecessors were more speaking the politics of Pretoria. Because you cannot, if you're a head of government, you cannot avoid, whether it's military or not military, you cannot avoid. You have to understand the politics, and people must feel free. They came back 1988, around February, from that, I think it was mid-January or early February. They were there for a weekend. Not 4 officers or 5. I'm talking about from captain up to the level of brigadier. General, we resolved as follows. 1, we cannot speak the language of Pretoria.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. That's not a problem. After all, where would I start? I'm not familiar with that language. We say Izwanja about Chief George Matanzima, but at times they are hard against Pretoria. Secondly, we resolved that we must inform Mr. Mandela about the change. We must inform ANC in Lusaka. We must inform PAC in Tanzania. And then I said, okay, who do we contact?
Because these guys, some are in exile, they are in prison.
How do we go about that? And how did you arrive at this decision? Well, sir, you are the commander and you are trained. This is the mission we are giving you. You go and make your own appreciation how to achieve that objective. You said we must go and discuss. This is what we have agreed to do. Then I immediately actioned, contacted some people I knew that they were underground in Transkei. One of them was Professor Mapute at the University of Transkei. He facilitated for us to go to send people to Lusaka to meet ANC. The other one was PAC, so we've managed to secure. Then in Tanzania, I sent Brigadier Matanzima and Brigadier Keswa. And then in Zambia, I sent Colonel Mkhalali. They came back, all of them, with appreciation, and I think I sent uMkhonto Matanzima to brief Madiba and Victor Fester. The operation went out smoothly and it was a success. The rest is history.
So did you not send anyone to Pretoria?
No, in Pretoria, yes. A good question. In the coup, we didn't remove, during the time we were conducting the coup, we didn't remove the president. The president was King Damase.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so
okay.
he said he's going to be the
still remain president.
Yeah, so
okay.
we're not spoiled boys and so on. So I went to see. So
he was like a figurehead, basically.
Figurehead, yes.
Okay.
So I said, all right, Dada. Of course, as I said, we briefed him even before, immediately after, not before the coup, immediately after 12 o'clock. There were some people who were briefing him at 12 midday, 8 hour. So I went to see him, and then we asked him to first to go and explain to Pretoria, and that they must continue to honor the agreements to assist Transkei as it was before. Let us retain
you never worried.
Transkei.
But were you never worried that South Africa was going to come and send the military to do something?
That's why the Pik Botha, we told him. This second coup, again, he called. And he was concerned about the South Africans. I said, no, everything is okay here. Those who are on holiday, going on holiday, on about.
Okay.
You can send.
He was worried about South Africans.
South Africans more than Transkei.
Okay.
I said, no, don't worry. This coup has got nothing. We're not targeting. After all, you should be praising us and thanking us, because the money which was stolen by these ministers and the corruption we see in the government departments here was as a result of the funds which were coming from your side. These are taxpayers of South Africa's taxpayers' money. So why would you be? He says, no. Then he went to Pik Botha. And then I said, no, the president is going to come and explain to you. Then I went to see the president, and president flew there. And then they never had any issues. And
do you think that the reason they didn't have that many issues, they were also worried because of the unrest and situation that was happening in South Africa and the potential changes that they were seeing, like within the general black population in the country?
No. Not that way. They didn't trust the military. If they come,
which military? Their military.
Ours.
Okay.
If they go there and attack Transkei, and then what if then we use hold whites or shoot whites as well? They knew the situation was dicey.
Okay.
He wouldn't dare to do that.
Okay.
So, but at the same time, I think the meeting, the file, which was handed to the ambassador. Yes, it was.
And then, like, did you enjoy ruling a country?
No, to be honest with you, if I had gone there to be pompous about being a head of state and this and that, I proved to every critic and everybody else there that one, I'm not going to earn the salary of the Prime Minister. I'm not here to take the salary of the Prime Minister. Two, I'm not moving to the State House. I will still stay in my house in the suburb where with my neighbors. Life is not going to change. And three, that my office, we are going to apply an open door policy. Anyone who wants to come, he or she is welcome. So that's why you'll find that later on, as the time goes on, the ANC in Lusaka sent a message to Winnie Mandela to say, can the Transkei military government prepare for the reburial, or put it that way, allow a reburial of King Sabata Talindyebo, who was buried like a pauper by the then president of Transkei, K.D. Matanzima. So we allowed them, and they came down there for the first time to enjoy a rally of some kind openly, wearing their colors. I remember Peter Mkaba coming there saying, ANC is unbanned here. Bulelani Ngcuka, ANC is unbanned here. All these UDF guys were there.
Oh, so you unbanned?
No, they were not. They were still banned.
No, I'm saying. Under the law, they were still.
They were
banned.
on paper.
On paper.
But they were operating
in Transkei
freely.
Okay.
Then PS wore their colors, ANC they wore their own colors, and so on and so on. So we maintained that relationship to the extent that when ANC wanted around 88, I think if I'm not mistaken, 88, 89, they wanted to recruit, to train, asked us to train their cadres, which they have recruited locally. Lambert Moy, comrade, we used to call him Comrade A, was based in Lesotho, being an MK member coordinating the region. So when you look at him, you would think that he's just a Madala from somewhere in Kandule or Sikisiki. So he arranged, if we recruit 1,500 for basic training of about 3 to 6 to 9 months, we would reserve 500 for the MK ANC. On the day of the parade, that 1,500 is leaving is on a parade. celebrating and enjoying themselves and so on. The following day, if the 500 of MK has gone anywhere, it's none of my business. I'm only interested in that 1,000 which we were training for Transkei Defence Force. Later on, we were also requested by the ANC, Chris Hani and Steve Chwete, through their contacts up to my office and Matanzima's office. Can you assist us with the instructors to come and train MK, to convert them into conventional warfare, train them into conventional warfare? Yes, we used to send about 50 military instructors to Anam to train the MK in Uganda. But we would make sure that when those instructors are selected, don't select an instructor who is married.
Okay.
Because the next thing, the wife of that individual will be coming to our offices and nagging us. Where is the father of my child, and so on and so on. And when they leave Transkei, they would leave in different directions, others through Swaziland, others through Botswana, and so on. Then they arrived in Uganda, and we said to them they are going abroad for advanced training, so they're excited. We cannot say to them you are going out to train, otherwise that operation will be blown immediately, blown out. And then I'm told when they arrived on that side, then they were welcomed by their brothers like, so-and-so, are you here? Huh?
Oh, wow.
What is this?
Oh, because their brothers had obviously left during exile.
Some of them.
And they wouldn't say that I had left.
Yes.
Because no one knew where they were. Oh, my goodness.
And then that operation also went out smoothly, and then we came back. Fast forward, Madiba is released in 1990.
I'm very interested in that relationship because it's such a unique relationship with him.
So I'm there to see him. I think it was 5 days after that. Everybody goes there to see him, to meet him. And then Madiba, when he heard that I was outside, then he came out. I still remember I was wearing a white T-shirt and his arms were like this. Bantu, well done, my boy. Well done, well done, well done, well done, my boy. We've been watching from a distance and hearing what you were doing in Transkei. Okay, fine. Then we chatted, and then Winnie Mandela came in. I think she was in town. Bantu, my son, the Mandela, your dad.
So what was this? Was this in
Soweto?
In Soweto, okay.
Bantu, my son, one thing which we are not going to allow is for de Klerk to protect Mandela. We can't ask Pretoria to provide security to Mandela. That would compromise the entire movement. So we are going to ask you to provide security. And then I said it to her, but how am I going to do that? Because I'm from another country. I know you don't believe in this homeland system. But I said, okay, I'll have to inform Pretoria formally that there will be there's this request, and they were dispatching so many troops to protect Madiba until MK is back, and they will be carrying these weapons and give numbers of each registration numbers and so on. And so I said, that's what I will be doing. And then on that afternoon, then I called General Matanzima, who was the commander of the defense. There is this request. Please dispatch at least about 3 or 4 of our troops, good disciplined soldiers. Indeed, then I said to him, send a diplomatic note to ask our DG to communicate with the ambassador that there is this request. It is in the interest that Mandela is safe all the time. Yes, agreed. Then they were sent to Soweto. Whilst I was there, I asked him, I said, Tata, is this your house? He said, yes. Oh, how are we going to protect this house? I know there was in
Oh, forums, yeah. Yeah. Neighbor here, yeah.
So, hey, it's awkward, this thing. I said, okay, but we will make a plan. But is this your house? When you want to exercise your customs and so on, why don't you build your own house in Qunu?
Oh, so, okay. So did that come from you? Okay.
That's why in that book, Long Walk to Freedom,
yes,
he says there, it is Bantu who advised me to live and Soweto and build a house.
Okay.
Not live, but to build his house in Qunu for the family. So Madiba traveled with those guys until they handed over to uMkhonto. It is around June, July or so. May, June, July. 1990. Yes. But you ask a question, where did this relationship start with him? Started on that afternoon when I was in his house. Then
obviously he could say that this is a person I can trust.
And then the next major trip, he was released on the 11th of February, 90. 21st of March. He said I must accompany him, not on the 21st, but before that. He said I must accompany him to celebrate the independence of Namibia on the 21st, which was held on the 21st of March. So that's when we started the trip together, and where I started to see this person is power.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a chat before this, when you recorded this. And I was very interested in how you told me about how he would just call very powerful leaders. And it was just like at the time, he was just a leader of a political party. And that was it. And yet, the presidents of the most powerful countries would call him back.
Well, this started in Namibia, in actual fact. When we were there, we were housed in a private house. And then he introduced me to Joe Slovo, Joe Modise, Nkobi, Alfred Nzo. They were still in exile. They were not yet back in South Africa. So after we left the stadium, we drove straight to the house where he was accommodated. And I was staying in a hotel. Instead of these leaders going to have lunch at the State House, I'm sure that lunch was delayed because almost all those leaders who were there wanted a piece of Mandela's flesh. So I still remember vividly when James Baker and
he was a
Secretary of State of USA.
Yes.
And Chavanansky, who was the Foreign Affairs Minister of Russia.
Yes.
They wanted to jump the queue. Now, Madiba, we were arguing inside the house there. Comrade, just tell us. Sometimes there's these things we are not used to them. Why would we allow these two ministers to see me before we have seen the heads of government and heads of state. Aren't we going to be seen as sending a wrong signal? Most of the leaders who are here are from the continent. And then the guys dash for cover. So it's hot in Namibia.
So they're dashing for cover because no one wants to advise him and say.
No. So his word was final. We will meet the heads of state and heads of government first. So look at this queue. It's hot in Namibia, and people are in their cars. And if I had cell phone that time, those days, I would have taken the picture of James Baker and the Russian foreign affairs minister in their cars. The doors are open, all is hot. They are sweating. And that process, we finalized it and we came back. And then later on, the ANC, people from exile came back, and so on and so on.
And then, like, when you were, I'm just thinking, like during the negotiations.
No, let's answer that question first. You're the one I said. Let me start.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
The Madiba's power, I also witnessed it when the OAU in 1992 resolved that there should be monitors sent to South Africa to monitor violence. You remember the era of the so-called black-on-black violence, where people were killed. So this resolution of OAU had to be endorsed by the UN Security Council. So on this day, I'm phoned by Mandela, Mr. Mandela, Bantu, where are you? Ndisemthatha. Can you accompany me to New York? You are going to address the UN. I will also address it, Mr. Makwetu and Mahlangu of Kwamhlanga, to support the OAU resolution. I understand that Pik Botha will be going there leading Nkosi Mangope, and all other homelands to oppose this. I've already dispatched Comrade Tabombeki, was the head of the foreign desk then, to go and lobby. What date? Then he gave me details, and on the day I flew to Johannesburg in the early hours, the day before. No, it was the day before we left. And then 8:30, I'm in his office at Shell House. Calling Barbara Masagela, his PA, can we have coffee and tea? Bantu likes it black with 2 sugars. And then came Jesse Duarte, carrying those coffee to us, serving us the tea and coffee. Then after that, Madiba says to me, man, I don't have full confidence in this exercise of lobbying. Comrade Tabombeki is not going to meet the heads of state. He's going to meet their representatives, ambassadors of the countries which are part of the Security Council. Let us phone the leaders and tell them that they must support or instruct their ambassadors to support this resolution. He pressed an intercom. Barbara, can you put me through to President Bush? I want to speak to him now.
George Senior, the
George
first
Bush,
one.
the senior.
Yeah.
Then Barbara banged the doors.
George H. Bush, George Herbert. Yes, okay.
Then Bush. He banged the doors. Then she banged the doors and says, open the doors. Madiba, don't you know that Bush is asleep? Her hands are here. I think that chap just said, okay, darling, when he's up, I want to speak to him. Sure. And I said, no, man, when you want to speak to a head of state, you have to go to the embassy.
All the different channels.
So on and so on.
Yeah.
How is it going to happen? I'll watch. Next person, is John Major asleep as well? No, they are an hour or 2 hours before us.
He was Prime Minister of
Prime Minister of Britain.
Britain at the time.
Then the Prime Minister of India, Gandhi, is Gandhi also? No, Madiba, I think let's try him because they are 4 hours ahead of us. And within 15 minutes, the call came from Gandhi's office. Then Madiba is not a man of platitudes. He goes straight to the point. Yeah. As you are aware, whether he is aware or not, as you are aware, the UN Security Council is due to meet to look into the OAU resolution to send people to monitor violence here. So we would like you to instruct your representative. Indeed, India at that stage, as a developing country, it was their turn to chair the UN Security Council. The next person, I think John Major, came around 11 back. Then he spoke to him. Everything was fine. And Russia, I asked him, what about Russia? He said, no, Comrade Joe Slovo will handle that. And China? No. No. China has never supported us. It was more supporting PAC and ZANU-PF of Mugabe. So I don't think we have communications there. At least if we have the majority of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, around 5:30 or so, the call came from Washington. Bush is on the line. Barbara, Daddy, Bush is on the line. Hey, again.
As you are aware,
Mr. President, we are coming to address the UN because of this and this and that. Please instruct your, no, not please, I would appreciate if you were to instruct your ambassador in the UN Security Council to support this. So Madiba is signaling to me while he's speaking on the phone that
we've got this.
Yeah, we've got. So we flew in the same evening. I forget Washington. Hey, now I've been going not Washington, in New York. Now I've been going to USA since '89 because we had office in Washington. This time around, I'm not going through the customs. So we're just taken from the plane straight to the cars. They are parked there, big cars. Said, whoa, this chap is powerful. He's not even a president of the country. So he's
You're
already
not getting this treatment, but
yes. And then we were taken to Hemsley Hotel, 42nd Street in New York. Madiba checked in, and his support staff. And then while I was in the hotel, I felt, let me go down and see this hotel. I bumped to Gqozo in the foyer.
Just give a context.
Oupa Gqozo.
The kids don't know who that is.
Oupa Gqozo was the leader of the Transkei military government. His rank was Brigadier Gqozo. So I asked him, hey, what puts you here? No, we're here to stop this nonsense of you and Mandela of wanting to bring monitors to monitor violence. He said, what's wrong with that? He said, no, we don't need them. We must solve our problems on our own. Or you say you're supporting that we keep on killing people or allow.
So did he come alone? No. What about the other leaders of
the other leaders were in other hotels. They came on their own because they were not in our flight. So Gqozo I said, my friend, you're wasting your time. The decision has been taken already. We finalized this thing yesterday. You will see it tomorrow. Go and sleep. Indeed, the following day we went to UN Security Council offices. Madiba was welcomed by Boutros Ghali. He was the Secretary General of
the
UN.
United Nations.
Yeah. And then the meeting started. Madiba addressed them. Makwetu of the President of PAC, myself, Mahlangu, and then we finished. When Madiba left, I left with him back to the office of Boutros Ghali. While he was chatting with Boutros Ghali, I'm focusing on the monitor to watch what is going on in the chamber there. Time to vote. All major countries of the Security Council, hands up, they're in support. And then those who are against or for, whatever, the Gqozo, Pik Bothas, and so on, Mangopes, nobody voted for them. So now I'm curious. I'm itching that Madiba must finish talking to Boutros Ghali, because I want to make sure when Gqozo arrive, I must be in the foyer. Indeed, we arrived early before them, back, and then Gqozo arrived. I said, "Did I not tell you that you have wasted a lot of time and your money? Just go and do shopping." I said, no, Madiba is powerful. He's controlling the world.
What do you think? What do you think the source of his power was from? What is the thing that? Because I mean, what? Because there are many people that there are presidents. They are like, what is really? It's a guy who's just come out of prison.
I think the Madiba was credited for having got out of jail, not showing an anger of having been there for 27 years. So the fact that he was a reconciliator, it credited him to many other people, and they were seeing the style of Mandela as having been a style which can be replicated in other conflict areas. So here is a leader who has come out, but he says, let the bygones be the bygones, let's build South Africa fresh, and so on. So that power, therefore, and also that they've also saw him. A lot of international journalists, PPCs of this world, and so on, had interviewed him, and they could sense that this person, you must know your story, because if you don't, he can cut you into pieces.
I remember. I don't know. There's that famous. I don't know if there's that interview with I forget the guy's name.
What is it for? Yes, I know.
Yeah,
I'm talking about.
Where he just
that
goes,
audience.
Yeah, and that big audience. And then the guy says to him, "But why are you, complimentary about, Cuba and Gaddafi and Russia and all of those countries?" And he says, "Just remember, your enemies are not my enemies."
That's true.
And that's not how it's going to work here.
Even when Bill Clinton came here, he tried to raise that issue and concern about the relationship between him and between ANC and Libya. Madiba told him, uncertain terms in the footsteps of your buildings, to say, you are not going to choose friends for us. But it turned out that at the end, Bill Clinton and Madiba became friends. You remember when he attended, I think, 90th birthday of Madiba. Bill Clinton would say, imagine a president of a first world country like USA. And then he says, when I receive a call, when Madiba say, "Hi, Bill," then I know that this is a friendly call. But when he says, "Mr. President," then I know that something is coming. I have to sit attentively, listen attentively. So that was the power he had. But he never abused that power. He was doing it in the interest of the country and promoting relations.
And do you ever think that, like, he privately, that, you know, he had some anger, but because he knew that he couldn't do that for the sake of the country, or it was just like his nature?
I think if you look at the process of when Mandela was still in jail, he was not like other prisoners who were locked in a cell and then just taken out. So you could see that the man started to influence the direction of this country while he was still inside. And in doing so, he didn't see the bodyguards and people who were guarding him in Victor Verster as enemies, but he won them on his side. And I'm sure those people conveyed a message to the powers that be, that, look, you are making a mistake. This person is not the person you think he is. Because he's he's worried about the future of South Africa. I think in that approach, he won the hearts and minds of the Pretoria Authority people. But for him to initiate a need to conduct with the people outside, whatever method he used to say, guys, let's explore the possibility of calling everybody around the table, because he realized that it would take us decades for our military personnel of ANC to overthrow Pretoria, given the lethal weapons they had.
Yeah.
So I think Madiba said, okay, the shortest way, these guys will be vulnerable around the table. And I think that gamble paid dividends in the sense that we couldn't go the full-blown war where we destroy the infrastructure, the bridges, and so on. But of course, we must not forget that in 1984-85, President Reagan and Gorbachev met in their summit, had a summit in Geneva, and took a decision to the effect that let's do away with Cold War. Hence, the Cubans in Angola were told, go back straight to Cuba, and that SADF don't even stop in Namibia or in Northwest. It was called Northwest.
Oh, yes.
Go and consolidate in Pretoria, and that MK go to Uganda. Let Angolans sort their own problems. But the UN Security Council resolution, I think it was 435, which empowered the UN to demand that Namibia must be given its independence. It kicked in because Atisari was an ambassador representing UN, and Dr. Chester Crocker was appointed by the USA to see to it that that resolution of UN is implemented, which culminated to the independence of Namibia on the 21st March in 1990. And then we knew after that if Namibia is going to be given independence, who's next? It's us. And but Madiba didn't want foreigners to meet to poke their nose into the negotiations. He said, no, let South Africans negotiate. Now, I hear a noise here. People say he sold out.
I'm so glad you touched on that because I really wanted you to touch on this issue.
Said Mandela sold out and this and that. So it was inevitable that when the Cold War was done away with, and like I said, Namibia was gained something, and the next one was South Africa to get the freedom. But people, when they say Mandela was sold out, must understand one thing. In the conflict of between black and white South Africa, between black and white in South Africa, militarily speaking, there was no winner. We opted to sit around the table. And in that score, if we, for instance, you had liberated zones during that conflict, to say we are in control of Northwest, all the mining belt is under the ANC, or we're in control of Eastern Cape and so on.
And all the wine is under the National Party.
Yes. And then you can say, therefore, you bargain better. But if you look at the setup here, when ANC was unbanned and PAC were unbanned, they came back not even carrying pistols. In other countries, you would have seen convoy of trucks to say we have conquered. The people would come out. No, didn't say that. I would challenge any one of them in any live debate to show us even a square inch of the land which they had liberated. The semi-liberated zone, strictly speaking, was Transkei, where we trained people, where people were moving freely, to prove that even during the transition period, we didn't destroy properties or kill people like you saw in other provinces. So,
oh yes, I remember like Gqozo.
Now, the constitution,
Sgcau.
the talks began in 1991 or so, 92, CODESA. It was coming up nicely at the beginning. But the day the apartheid killed Chris Hani, they took a risk which nearly
Well, he was Madiba at the time, right? If I'm not mistaken. When he found out.
Yes, I'll tell you about that, but let me finish this. So during negotiations, when Chris Hani was assassinated, after that, the members of the leadership of the ANC began to press panic buttons in the middle of negotiations to say, let's have a date for election. Now, it's fine. We got the date. We were free in 1994. But we didn't finish the work. The economic freedom, the land issue, property ownership, and so on and so on. So politically, yes, we got power, but economically...
Also, basically, so what I'm understanding is the ANC leaders said, okay, this has happened.
Yes.
But let's get a date for elections.
Yes.
Without having covered everything else. Other bases.
They were far away from finishing that. In fact, it is Joe Slovo who proposed, he was the head of SACP, who proposed sunset clauses, the approach of use of sunset clauses to the leadership of the ANC.
Just like explain what sunset clauses.
Sunset clauses would be to say, let us agree on these for now. We will address them later. Let's put it in the constitution that these people will get their property safe, the land where they are. But the sunset clause, it tells you that at some stage it will go away. But where the mistake was made was when the ANC under Mbeki got 2/3 majority. If they had the guts to amend the constitution, they would have done that with ease. But I sense that the ANC was caught off guard by the changes of 1990. They were not ready to govern. They had not trained people to govern. Even on that day of the release by de Klerk, you still remember we're waiting as early as 9 o'clock that Mandela will be released at 10. What then? He was released around 5 because they were still moving up and down, trying to draft speeches and so on and so on. They were in disarray. But it proved now when it came to, here is your 2/3 majority, you have it.
What are you going to do?
Yes, what are you going to do about it? So you can't blame Mandela for that. He was not even a president. Even the question of sunset clauses was not proposed by Mandela. It was proposed by the SACP's Secretary General, Joe Slovo, who said, man, if we are not moving fast, we might end up having a conflict because of people were angry on the death of Chris Hani. Hence now they said, let's demand. It's fine, it worked smoothly because we got power in 94. Now the constitution of South Africa, as currently is as we see it, there are things which when we had 2/3 majority we were not happy with. That sunset is a clause which will diminish with time. They should have now come back and said, here is a land proposal policy. Here is what we are proposing for property ownership. Look at Matanzima, KD. Transkei was independent only for 18 years. These guys are almost 30 years now. But he managed that from day one, when he got the free Transkei's independence, all 28 towns, suburbs, cities, what do you call it?
Metros.
Metros, no, big towns.
Yeah.
That is CBDs.
Oh, CBDs.
Yes. That land was given to Transkei and farms and so on. But here, you can go to Elof Street in Johannesburg, you go to Strand Street in Cape Town, all over and ask, who's the owner of this building? Oh, it's Van Tonder. Where is he? He's in Canada. And here? Who's the owner here? It's Van der Merwe. Where is he? He's in Australia. Where is the property which belongs to Holomisa? Nothing. KD Matanzima's Pan-Africanism policy helped a lot of people. But let's hope one day you will see someone owning a property in these towns, Durban and so on. But what I see now, I see more people who are coming from outside the country, buying these properties, grabbing them, because the government didn't apply their mind or develop a policy on how to empower.
What's stopping them from doing that now? Why can't they do that now?
No, they won't do it now because they are not moving together, because I mean,
Or the worry about maintaining power.
so
There's a bit scared.
yes, the priority is about
Electricity.
they say they tend to eat together with their families. So corruption is eating in the body politic of the ANC like a cancerous tumor. They won't worry about the rest. Look at how the infrastructure is being destroyed in their eyes, in front of their eyes.
What?
Railway, you talk whatever. Everything is falling apart.
And I mean, because it's funny because I remember like as a child, your memories, I think as a child driving through like Butterworth, driving through Imtata, Uklin. And what I see now, the gridlock in terms of traffic, people aren't obeying the laws. They just drive whatever they want. There's trash all over the place. It's such a vastly different place compared to when, I suppose, you were running it. What is different? I'm going to talk specifically now about the Transkei, or what is now Eastern Cape. What is so different about how it's run compared to how it was when you were running it?
Well, it's about how to call it.
Is it because people were afraid that they knew what would happen if you're corrupt?
No, firstly, you have to promote a culture of ownership. That this is my house, I must clean it. This is my street, I cannot throw rubbish in the street. This is my town, I cannot throw everything. Discipline is the other word, because they knew that when we say, please don't steal, don't vandalize properties, let's respect each other, people of Transkei immediately understood us, because that has been the philosophy planted by K.D. Matanzima. Whether you like him or not, but he was a statesman and he was respected, unlike his brother, who was involved in this thing of Sol Kesner and others. But we retained that, but not oppressing people, but allowing them freely to go and bury their loved ones wearing their party colors. And some people today would tell you, we used to sleep for windows opened.
Yeah.
But today you can't. So therefore there is a change in the whole country. We wouldn't dare to sell drugs to any child in Transkei that time. And
we didn't even know what those were.
And you wouldn't even see a child going to school, early hours is dropped by the parents, then 9:30, the kids are in the street.
Yeah.
In town. No.
Yeah.
So there was order. So here, the anarchy is engulfing the entire country, unfortunately.
And yeah. Is it a question, like, I think there's a question that a lot of people are asking because they're frustrated, right? If there is such a thing, is it an issue of too much democracy? Some are even talking about a benevolent dictatorship, where that if you actually had somebody who had proper discipline and made sure that the country ran in a very specific way, because even if you didn't feel like doing something, but because you were afraid of the consequences and you knew that the consequences would happen quickly, and we knew people would suffer the consequences, and that maybe things would run, a lot smoother that way.
Well, it depends on the functioning of the state, in particular the law enforcement agencies, which include the likes of the NPAs. So if people know that they can do whatever and then get away with murder, meaning therefore he knows that he or she's not going to be prosecuted. This NPA head in this country, I don't know why there has not been an assessment. She should have long been put under or removed, put it that way. She has failed. How many cases? I'm sure they are piling.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the Zondo Commission's findings. There is no political will to implement those findings. What we are seeing is a continuation of state capture. It's worse what the Minister of Finances said now about the ESCOM, to say ESCOM must be exonerated.
I saw that yesterday in the news. I was like, this is very worrying.
No.
That is very worrying.
Now, if in other countries a minister would have done that, he would have been told, Chief, by the time I come back from London or from my home in Umtata to Pretoria, please, man.
Here's a letter.
Let's go. So there's no discipline here, and it's worse with Cyril. It seemed not to be having any authority amongst us.
What do you think of him as a president?
As a president, he's
and running the country.
Chief, you must be decisive. The problem in his case is that he's a process person. And then when you allow processes, sometimes they take longer. And then by the time you measure dividends, the damage has already been done.
But I mean, the thing is, I don't know if I've almost feel like sometimes process is an excuse not to make decisions, or fearing to make decisions. And because I know that a lot of people were not fans, for example, of former President Thabo Mbeki.
Yeah, because he was.
But it got things done, right? And I don't think he skipped process. He still followed process, but things got done.
Yes, but Cyril, you remember in Parliament, during the time we were debating the Nkandla debacle and so on, he was deputy president. I said, the problem, you're a coward.
I remember.
He said, yeah, General, uthini ligwala, nguwo ligwala mfondini, wabaleka kwa-ANC. Yeah, unfortunately, but he's liked by South Africans because when you look at it, you say, all right, people will say, yes, he must go. We have been calling for him to go. But people will say, General, yes, we hear you. But who else under the circumstances? So meaning, therefore, that cancer of corruption
will continue.
Yeah, is worrying many people as to who. Because he was alone to say he's going to fight corruption. Not a single minister you hear that in their speeches. Or a member of the ANC. Sometimes you hear them corruption in parliament, but no one.
But the thing is, even with him, I think, I almost feel like I cannot see evidence of him fighting it.
No.
So I hear platitudes.
He's entangled now.
And even before, so and it feels like a lot of people feel like they can still get away with stuff, and they're like, well, if I get caught, it's going to be at least another 5, 6, 7, 10 years before anything happens to me.
Well, of course, he has shown his weakness when he failed to deal with the ministers who were fingered by the Zondo Commission. At least he should have said, Chief, please, in the interest of the country.
Why do you think he's not doing anything? Why do you think? Apart from being, okay, yes, he's a politician. I mean, I remember, maybe Mandela is a bit of a different story because he was a figure.
But if you read the fracas around CR17 scandal that he is accused of having bought branches to be where he is. So you cannot have, a leg to stand on and try and speak with authority, because they're going to say, you have buried your own scandals by running to court. Even look at Phala Phala, a thing which he should have said, yes, I confirm this is what happened. How many? It took about a month or more before he could come and address the country.
Yeah, and I hear that, but I actually want to go back a little to when you were, because I think it was in '94 when you had the most votes in the ANC, as in the leadership of the ANC. Do you think that because of the nature of the ANC, it is impossible or quite difficult for someone who is an honest broker to rise up to levels, of power within the ANC? Because it feels like parts of the reasons that you were expelled was because you're calling out certain things within the ANC.
No. Don't glorify me for that. I went to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to ask the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to compensate the families of the deceased soldiers of the then Transkei Defence Force who were killed in an abortive coup supported by Pretoria de Kock, Flag Plus, in 1990. But it didn't succeed, but people were killed by people from Lesotho, LLA, Lesotho Liberation Movement, which were used by de Kock and other assassins, but they didn't succeed. So, but I said to them, to the commission, I'm here to ask you to compensate those families because the mere fact that we took over government, this thing was political. We're fighting corruption then. And I stated the Sol Kesner saga and how much each ministers received. So then ANC overreacted. They said to me, Mr. Holomisa, why are you accusing Stella Sgcau? I said, no. I was making a reference to a historical event of which she and others also know. And it was in the public domain, the reason for us to take over then. Why are you wanting to classify that this is a new revelation? And then Kada Asmal was on TV saying, Holomisa must be expelled and this and that. And then Matiba phoned me that evening. He said I must withdraw what I said there. And I said, no, there will be no apology here. But if this is going to put you in trouble, you can remove me from your cabinet. And those who have been saying this, I'm going to be disciplined. I won't honor that disciplinary process because I'm protected by going to the TRC. I've taken an oath. So on what basis must you just pull me by my jacket? So, and then as you will recall, maybe what you read, I said, no, after all, the ANC is the last one to want to discipline me because they are conflicted. Sol Kesner gave you 2 million, the ANC, for elections. So what's the big deal? You don't have a leg, you can't discipline me because it would appear by mere mentioning the word of Sol, the name of Sol Kesner, the comrades panicked beyond comprehension. So if an infuni wa ANC angaxesha lenu, but make no mistake, it will not be the end of Holomisa. So that was it. So therefore, I couldn't sacrifice my principles just for positions. After all, even in 1987, when I took over government, I didn't move to the State House or get take the salary of Stella Sgcau. I retained my salary as the DG of Defense or Commander of the Defense.
But I mean also, but my question still stands. Is it difficult for someone who kind of says who wants a clean ANC and a clean government to rise to a real position of power in the current state of the ANC? Or is it a historical thing even?
I don't know where you start from, because it looks like I said earlier on, you hear people say, yeah, Holomisa and EFF and others, you opposition, you are calling for Cyril to go. Who else is going to take? I said, no. It's a question of principle. We're not interested as to who takes over from him. ANC, who's got a mandate to run the country, will produce another one. But on this one, we're dealing with this case, he has to go. We said the same thing on Zuma.
But isn't it principally for me?
But the issue of corruption, it looks like these guys have been contaminated from time immemorial, especially those who were outside, because over time, because over time, I think the fact that he had to also suffer a stroke, you can see now that what kind of the people he was dealing with. So, I mean, this...
No, explain when you say what kind of people he was dealing with. What does that mean?
It showed you that these problems have been more...
So he's just been stressed.
Stressed because now the focus is no longer about fighting to free South Africa, but they were fighting amongst themselves. It's the same here. It's happening now here inside, where we should be talking about developing South Africa, free education, infrastructure. They have now abandoned the original agenda and focusing now on looting. That has not been the statement they have been selling to South Africans. Now the people, the liberators of yesteryears are the ones who are looting. So what must we do?
Why do you think that because as leader of the UDM, because in many regards, I mean, I almost feel like you probably should have a bigger share of the vote. What do you think are the drivers behind the fact that you don't have as many votes as I think you should have? And because you've been a household name for decades, and there's a trust factor that people have. I think when they look at you, and when you go to parliament, you say things that people are like, exactly, that's what we're thinking, and we're happy you're saying what we are thinking. What is stopping you from going?
Chief, the corruption is not about stealing the money only in the till. Corruption looks at who do you deploy in these elections, and also the resources. We are competing here. It has been proven by Zondo in the Zondo Commission that ANC has been sustained by using taxpayers' monies. Here is a company called Bosasa, which was looting billions and billions of rands. And then when they go to rallies, Bosasa sign for buses, stadiums, fill them, and then feed them. And then you say, Holomisa, why are you not having the same crowd? I said, no, but I don't have access to resources. So the question of the playing field is not leveled when it comes to the resources, because there is this party which is abusing resources. Now, if they're going to have that slush fund, that's why when you go to the voting stations, then 200s are put in the pocket, 200 in the lines. So, but I'm not interested in I don't have to have those numbers. One day I will have them, or the UDM will have them, even if I'm not around. But when I speak and Kwangwa will speak in Parliament, the whole nation listens.
That's very true.
I don't care. You can give them 10, 30 minutes talking and rabble-rousing and so on.
Yeah.
We get 3 minutes only, but we get to the point. So let's hope now the people are getting wiser, the voters. And then, of course, we are educating them. For UDM to have taken the government to say floor crossing must go, it's no longer in our statute books. For the UDM
I forgot about that.
For the UDM to say the chairperson of IEC is doing wrong things, she has to go. She had to go. When the UDM says we want a secret ballot, Balega was jumping, but we succeeded in that. The UDM has now taken the government to court on ESCOM issues, together with other parties. Right now, we are busy with the Department of Finance, or the government, on allegedly robbing the pensioners. If, for instance, you joined government in 1976, 80s, and then when you retire, let's say last year or this year, or 5 years ago, and then when they calculate your pension, they calculate it as if you started to work for the government in 1996.
Oh.
And then where are these billions? Because when they inherited those trillions from SATBV's states and other homelands and so on, that money was taken to be controlled by GEPF, and then GEPF took all those investment monies and put them under PIC. But PIC turned out to be nothing else but a piggy bank of the comrades. The worst thing is that they are not servicing most of them, of these deals. I'm sure you read about this every day. So that was another campaign which we don't have to have majority numbers. There will be a time for that.
Yeah, but I personally think I'd like to.
Give me money. Just give me, say, 5 million only
for an election campaign.
National. I don't want 20, 40. Don't even give me cash. Any business would be willing, including yourself. All I would say to you, just pay for printing, for T-shirts. That's what I need for that. That's all. You keep your receipt. You can claim your tax. I don't want the cash. That's all.
So anyone, guys, anyone's got 5 million. Yes,
don't give it to me. But spend it. We'll give you what we want. Yeah,
okay,
that's all.
All right. And then, do you think that the situation we find ourselves is reversible quicker? I mean, okay.
It is going to take time. Because the ANC have played applied a cruel approach, where instead of creating opportunities for people to be employed, they now say, okay, we'll give you 350 rands. And so on and so on. Here's a grant for that, grant for that. Now these kids have been to school. They are languishing at home. Others now have resorted to use of drugs and so on. Now that is a cruel way of killing the nation, because you don't want these people to be independent. You are saying, okay, here is 350. Sleep, wake up, go and vote for me. perpetually. That's not, it's immoral.
Do you think it's just a matter of okay, as Gon says, it's ineptitude, but I don't think it's just ineptitude. I think what you said earlier is a lack of political will to make things happen.
Mm-hmm. We've got resources.
Yeah, we've got resources, but also we've got people who are able.
Skilled.
Yeah, skills.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and what I tend to see sometimes is people who don't seem like are up to the task in the beginning are appointed to roles.
Mm.
And I mean, what our opposition party is actually doing to stop that sort of nonsense from carrying on.
Well, if you see, people in this country don't want to credit the role played by the opposition.
Mm.
If we didn't do what we have done, the situation would have been worse. There's no doubt about that. We can list as many things where the opposition had to intervene and we stopped them. You still remember when the ANC were saying there's nothing wrong with Nkandla? And then they said, well, this swimming pool is a fire pool, right?
Yeah.
And then Msholozi threw them under the bus and said, no, it's Oupa. They know about this. It's the same thing they are doing with Cyril.
Mm.
Cyril said, okay, I'm prepared to resign. And then Mantashes and others said, don't. We will tell the caucus in parliament to say there's no case here.
Mm.
Panel report, no. Just stay there. We'll tell parliament, majority in parliament. Now, it's a lesson now to the would-be voters next year to say, are we going to tolerate these guys for another 30 years?
Well, it's a good question, but but I do think that people are a lot more impatient than ever in the history, I think, of this country.
Yes. They're panicking.
And even though people had this sense that okay, we trust, Cyril, because it felt like in the last election, there was like, we don't really trust the ANC that much.
But we
trust him a bit more.
But it's worse now.
Trust is gone. It feels like that trust has eroded quite immensely. And of course, what's happening in ESCOM and the fact that people aren't seeing people going to trial and or not being arrested, being tried, going to jail.
Or they are killed.
They are killed. And there's, I hate to use a word that someone kind of mentioned who said, I don't know, some people are mentioning, which is like we're living in a gangster state of some kind now. And that's what's happening. Because everyone is kind of afraid to confront and tell the truth as they say it. Because, well, if I say it?
It's a mafia state.
Yeah.
Definitely. There are signs. They're there.
Yeah.
And reports every day when you hear that even now the law enforcement agencies are involved. Be worried. Be worried.
How would you run the country if you did?
Sure. I know, please.
No.
Never give me that assignment.
No, I think no.
No, let me answer you on a serious note. The first thing which one has to do would be to prioritize the things you would do. And the sequencing will be key. Currently, let us prioritize that we are going to save the lives of South Africans, everyone who lives here. Number 2.
Crime, so there's crime.
Yes, crime. Number 2 is a question of the education. No, not education, economy. Because economy, if it is not growing, you are not going to be able to develop the country, infrastructure, education, you name it. Our hospitals, you see them, they are falling apart. And also you talk communications. we should have now rolled the broadband out to any corner of South Africa. So that if you want to open your spaza in village X or in township X or in suburb A, you would be able to have access to internet. But the key ones, these three: security of the country. Right now, you buy a car, it's nice, you celebrate. The following day, that car is in Mozambique.
Mm-hmm.
So which means, therefore, the security of the state we're vulnerable to anything. There are people here who come and rob banks, bank heists, and so on. No. That's a priority for me. You blame my background for that. But I like a safe environment.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people were moving freely when I was in charge of Transkei. Number two is, how do we build this economy? Because it's linked to whether the climate is conducive to invest in South Africa, and also if we as South Africa or the government invest in the infrastructure and then the people vandalize that infrastructure, that means there's no security. So it's intertwined.
Mm.
So the question of education is key, but who will implement those policies? That is, you have to invest more on your machinery, civil servants. It's time that we introduce a career civil servants policy, as opposed to what you see today. Anybody can be grabbed in the street and be made a chief director or a director who has never done even an induction course. He knows nothing about that. As a result, you go to the offices today, there's no filing system. If you come next month after you have reported your case or your request or whatever, you come back, comrades, I remember this file was here, man. Hey, what happened?
Mm.
Those people have not been trained.
Mm.
They are not educated, some of them. How on earth would you be out smart by former homelands? In Transkei, you wouldn't be an educational planner if you didn't have masters.
Mm.
Now we just deployed a principal who was a member of an organization. Now he's an educational planner. Mm-hmm. No, man, it doesn't work like that.
Mm.
Please.
Mm. Mm. You know, if I talk about the future of South Africa,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like literally today, I got a message about someone that I used to work with. He's leaving the country. He's going to work somewhere else.
Yeah.
I also know, I know a few people I know people who are considering leaving the country. And if they get like a decent offer overseas, they will go. And we are having this constant brain drain because there is if the brain drain was happening and things were seeming to be fixed, I'd be frustrated at the people who are leaving, right? But now I feel like I can understand.
They have reached a state of hopelessness.
Yes.
And they are saying, all right, firstly, I'm not safe here.
Yes.
Number two, I've got these qualifications, but look, who is my boss? I'm not appointed. Even if I go to do an interview, the daughter or son or relative of so-and-so is already earmarked for this post. You are wasting your time.
Mm.
So unfortunately.
But then so then how can someone really think about the future, of the country in a good way when we see the things that we're saying?
No, the solution is in our hands. We are being given an opportunity in 2024, to show our anger, protest votes, whatever you call it. It's high time that if you are a member of the ANC, you don't leave your party. Continue to be a member of the ANC, but don't vote blindly. vote wisely and say, all right, I'll give ANC at local government if you want, but at national I give it to a new arrangement or another political party. You see, people tend to say there is no alternative in South Africa. That topic has no space for South Africa. There is an alternative. All what is needed now.
What is the alternative?
I'm happy now that there's a lot of programs. There are a lot of programs taking place where you'll find that people now are beginning to educate and doing research, and also to say, maybe in South Africa, it's time that we must declare that never again shall we put all our eggs in one basket. The time for one-party dominance is over. We've seen it, that it breeds corruption. So let's make sure that now we plan for the kids, for our kids, even for those experts who have decided to leave South Africa to come back. The best way to do that is for us to swallow our pride as different leaders, but try and not confine the politics into parties. Open up the space.
What does that mean?
That means
confined into parties.
That means the political parties we can have an indaba or a convention or summit, which includes sectors of our civil society, political parties in parliament, political parties outside parliament. And the debate, if you can manage to put them under one roof and say, Quo Vadis, South Africa, where are we heading to? What is the future of South Africa? Then you begin now to educate about. The resolution might be to say, why DA, UDM, EFF, this and that, wanting to sprint apart, competing for the cake which is in the hands of the ANC? Why don't you form an umbrella, but you still retain your independence, but you register this umbrella that in the next elections you are going to make sure that this umbrella gets to forces the votes of ANC to be below 50 or 40 in that region. Then you can now effectively promote the checks and balances of whatever outcome will come up there, whether it's a government of national unity or it's a coalition. But at national level, it's not going to be like what you see.
I was going to ask that because when I'm looking at local government and I'm like, it's chaos.
But
these coalitions.
But remember,
so if I don't see the evidence of that working here, it's hard for a normal person to say that maybe it's going to work in the national government.
No. We remember we have a precedence. 1994, we had a government of national unity.
The ANC majority there.
Yes, but it worked. You didn't have this full-scale looting of resources. At least there was development, water, the roads were there.
Houses are being built. Electricity
was there.
Yes.
Now, when Madiba and others left, another phenomenon came, that of brazen looting. So I'm saying, if the political parties and people like yourselves, you make noises to say, guys, close ranks. We're not saying gang up against the ANC, but in this umbrella and in Daba, you can even attract members of the ANC to say, guys, we are talking about building or rebuilding our country. We are a laughing stock. We used to be the glorified guys in the past country, but now we are talking about South Africa. People just look at that side and said, no man, please, It's a failed state.
But also like what's also crazy is that, the Western Cape at some point, it was also like under the ANC. And
no, those guys, man. But I told you
that
these people were not ready to govern. So don't take us back there.
No, and then what happened is that like the DA did a coalition, they managed to sustain it, and then now they're like running the whole thing. And I think that's probably the ANC's biggest fear, is that what would happen if they lose, right?
And then you'll find that the party which is in majority, which is going to lead coalition, is also like a white dominated party. Then it will show to them that they have abandoned the original agenda and they focused on misusing resources of the state. I mean, look at we have load shedding. Think of it when the government approved and Parliament endorsed that or approved the building of two plants, Medupi and Kusile. They were given billions of rand, trusted. Guess what? The company Hitachi, which has been assigned to build those two plants, came out having another partner. Who's the other partner? It's the ANC. Through their Chancellor House. They get away with billions out of that. So, please. It's a cultural shock for some of us.
Yeah. So is there a message that, because the podcast is called Leave a Message, and is there like a message that you have, or something that if there's one thing I want every single citizen to think about, it's this?
Well, I hope that every citizen will make use of the current opportunity by making sure that they understand the state of the conditions of the state of South Africa. It needs fixing, and unfortunately, we are not going to get someone from outside to come and fix it. It is in our hands. You either choose to deal with this or tolerate this party which is ransacking the whole country, or you align yourself with the notion that we need a new order.
It's it's going to be an interesting 2024. That's all I know.
It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be very interesting 2024, and I do think that I feel like the ANC is really, really worried, but they're also so panicked they don't know what to do right now. I feel like they don't know, and they're still going to try the old tricks, but those old tricks are not going to work as well as they used to.
They see. I see this noise about ANC possibly working with EFF. I don't think it's going to resonate well with members of the ANC.
It's not going to resonate
already. They are split on this, to say. And unfortunately, this thing is sponsored by the media. It's EFF.
The coalition. The so-called coalition. Yes. Okay.
And they are unable to come up and say yes or no.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Because EFF has been working with all the parties. Whether it's Freedom Front Plus, they will be part of the coalition, DA, UTM were there. So our aim has always been that the services must be delivered. But the big brother is struggling to put his house in order. They are fighting amongst themselves. I don't think that coalition will stand, because The Juju and EFF were saying Cyril must go. And I can't see Cyril and Juju and the entire ANC sit down and talk about forming a coalition. It's a very risky strategy, which, if EFF is not careful, is designed to destroy EFF. Because people are going to say, yeah, you said you are fighting these fellows.
And now you're here with them.
And that's why we gave you so many numbers. Why do you want now to go and run a country with them? So all I wish is that we could go back to the same arrangement we had in 2016, where EFF and other opposition parties would sit down and say, guys, what are the priorities? And EFF said, no, we'll support, but we're not going to take positions in the government. It was fine. It worked. But now, I think the person who, or the people who are destabilizing the concept of coalition is none other than the ruling party. Because they want to come to you and say,
see, it's not working.
This thing is not working. Yeah, so, but I'm not convinced also that they have a plan to get out of this quagmire. They are entangled in every corner.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be very difficult because it's a few months.
Yeah.
And there's no time.
There's no time.
It's elections are usually, is it May? What, April? No, May, around the time, whatever the time is, but it's in about a year's time. And there is not enough time.
Remember that already they have been pushed out of the cities.
Yes, they've been pushed out of the cities.
Now they go to the rural areas. But in the rural areas, the people there, if you go and look at the infrastructure of those areas, especially after these storms and bad weather, climate change, people are losing hope.
Yeah.
Because they wait.
And nothing happens.
The taxi operators, those who have vehicles in the rural areas, you buy a car, in 6 months, it's gone.
Yeah, the effects of climate change. Also, there's so much we could talk about because I know that you're very passionate about the environment as well.